welcome to the Miss Tweety Show. It is the first episode, and I'm your host, and I go by Tweety. I'm just so excited to actually finally be starting this YouTube podcast. And you know, basically one of the main reasons why I started it is because I'm a 17-year-old that just likes speaking about politics, and I feel like there's not enough teens my age at least that are really speaking on politics or have any like real, you know, input or like, you know, shows talking about them. You know, so basically I'm very opinionated, and I'm pretty much gonna say what I want to say. So if you don't like opinionated teens or opinionated black people, this is not the show for you, because my show will be very black, very opinionated, and very well spoken and articulate. And if you cannot comprehend anything I just fucking said, this also is not the show for you. So with that being said, oh, you know what, let me give credit to people and why I even started this show. Right. I was watching Fit and Fresh and that bullshit. I believe that's what it's called, Fit and Fresh, with the light-skinned black dude and the dark-skinned black dude, and then he be having all the women on the show. Yeah, that show. And then I was watching and then I was watching Shits and Gigs. I'm not quite sure if you guys know that podcast, but their podcast is actually, why can't I put my glasses on? Their podcast is actually like really good. Like I really like their show and their podcast. And then Candace Owens, I've never actually like fully watched her show. I've just saw little like snippets and like bits and pieces of her show, but it all just sounded like bullshit, if I'm being so completely honest. Excuse me, not too much. And so yeah, you know, and just watching all those shows and the different shit that they talk about, of course not Shits and Gigs, they were just kind of like the force to like push me out there and kind of be like, you know, like anybody could do this, you know, you could talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. But I'm interested in politics and racial shit and, you know, shit like that, right? So that's more of the avenue that I decided to go with. Yes, guys, I'm outside, I'm at the park, which some of you bitches need to be doing, touching some motherfucking grass and not touching that weed. Okay, we see your lungs rotting, they're turning black. And so yeah, with no further ado, let's get into it. So the first topic is going to be about white people and them doing and saying whatever the fuck they feel like they can do and say, and really getting away with that shit too, if I'm being so honest. So honestly, when I really started like noticing what racism is, and like, you know, really started noticing that skin color was a problem, is as I got older, because it's like, I really don't even know how to like explain this, but I noticed that like I grew up around like very pro-black like people, you know what I mean, like Black Panther type of, you know, pro-black people. And you know, we would have like certain discussions and, you know, certain talks about certain things, but it's like when you're a little kid, you don't really like, I'll say like no like what's fully going on in the world, you know, because you're still trying to, you know, learn your ABCs, 1 2 3s, you know, multiplication, read, write, you know, shit like that, right? So the last thing that's on your mind is blacks against whites or whites against the whole fucking world, or, you know, shit like that, right? But I think I started to really notice racism and understand what it was as I got older, during that George Floyd time, because that's when, you know, that shit really started to pop off, and, you know, rednecks and, you know, crackers started to really show their ass, you know, and, you know, kind of just be out there, you know, saying shit to people, posting shit, doing shit, and, you know, stuff like that. And when I was little too, you know, black girls, they get like, you know, all the vibrant colors and, you know, the long hair and the weave and, you know, stuff like that. We all do it. I remember when I was little, it happened to me like 2-3 times. throughout the years. But when I was little, I was walking, and a white woman, older white woman, she had to be like 70s, 80s, 70, 80s, and I'm guessing she was taking her grandkid to school. And I'm walking in front of them, and all I feel is like hand grab my hair, like grab my hair. And like, you know when someone like takes their hand and like does this, she like, she got the handful of my hair, y'all. I was like, what the fuck? And so, right, you know, and I look back at her because I'm like, what the fuck? And mind you, I'm a little kid, so I didn't say what the fuck to her, but I was just like, you know what I mean? And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just had to touch it, it was just so pretty, like, you know. And growing up, I was just kind of like, I knew it was wrong because black people were always taught, like, don't let nobody touch your hair, don't wear nobody's hats, you know, shit like that, right? So I knew it was wrong. But growing up, you know, when you're taught to be respectful and, you know, shit like that, you don't really want to say nothing to her. So I was just like, oh, like, it's okay, knowing damn well that shit was not okay. But I digress, you know. And then during the George Floyd thing, I remember me, my grandmother, I want to say it was my stepmom at the time, and my best friend, right? We're all walking out of the mall, and this was during the George Floyd movement, and, you know, everybody raiding and, you know, doing shit like that. And we see these low-key, y'all, I'm not joking, we see these redneck hillbillies, okay, full-blown crackers, like, I'm like, cannot be any more of a joke, bro. And he looks at us dead in our faces and says, ha ha ha, I can't breathe. And I was like, and at this point, I don't know how fucking old I was, but I was old enough to say some shit to him. And I was like, the fuck, I can make that a reality. Like, fuck wrong with you? Like, what the fuck is you talking about? Like, you stupid fucking cracker, some shit like that. I was popping off, right? I was popping off. And so, you know, he with his 2 kids, and I'm like, fuck your kids. Like, you know, woo, right? And, you know, my grandma was like, oh, just leave it alone. You know how we all got them grandmas like, oh, just leave it alone. Like, it's okay. And I'm like, fuck you, man. It's okay. Like, this nigga just, like, you know what I mean? Anyways, y'all, right? So that was one of the first times that I ever actually experienced racism. And it was kind of like there's nothing you could do about it unless all us women were going to band together and give this nigga a certified black ass whooping. But of course none of us were. We had shit to do, they had shit to do, we were all going about our day. So it was kind of like, it was what it was. But going into these school systems, you know, I went to a school called Mariloma, which is predominantly white and Asian, and there was like a handful of like black kids, okay, that would like band together. But like the whites and Asians would mainly hang out with each other, or the Asians and Asians, or, you know, the whites and whites. And it was very much, I would say it was very much segregated. It wasn't like nobody was really mixing with each other like that, at least if you were like, you know, whatever. And I feel like, you know, that was wrong, but there was, you know, nothing you could really do about it. But I remember going to that school, and this was one of the main reasons why I left, is because there would be a lot of racist shit as far as like white people. And when you would tell the principals, who were also white, they really wouldn't give a fuck. They wouldn't say anything about it. They wouldn't do anything about it. They would kind of just be like, oh, we'll talk to them, it's okay, we'll talk to them, we'll make sure, you know, maybe they just don't know. Why is that always their excuse for when dumbass white people decide to say shit that they feel like is okay saying? And people of color, especially black people, have to just be like, oh, you're right, maybe they just don't know, maybe, you know, it's our fault, maybe we should, you know, educate them. But it's like, why do black people have to keep educating people for their ignorance? You know what I mean? It's almost like if we could pick up a book and read it and learn about our history, then you guys can learn about, you know, your history, racism, and, you know, the things that your people have definitely done to other people. You know what I mean? And, you know, I feel like some shit they know for a fact is not okay to say, and they still say the shit because they know at the end of the day there will be no actual consequences. And I think that's the problem. I believe in violence, and I believe in giving people a certified ass whooping, and that's how I grew up too. You're not gonna come up and walk up to me and be like, you nigga, you nigger. Fuck is you talking about? Fuck is you talking about? I know you're not talking to me. You know what I mean? yeah, so there was some instances in high school where people would say little shit, do little things. And I remember when I was sitting in the hallway with my friends. We were all minorities, right? There was some blacks, whites, not whites, some blacks, some Hispanics, some mixed people, you know what I mean? So we was all people of color. And we're sitting in the hallway chilling, eating our food, and these white redneck hillbillies walk by, and they basically look at us and they're like, we should spill milk on these roaches. Huh? I flipped my shit, and after that I was like, I have to leave the school because I'm gonna catch a case. I was like, I can't do it. Of course they didn't spill milk on me, and what ended up happening is I threatened one of the boys, and I was like, my brother will be here today, keep fucking with me, like my brother will be here today. And the next day that nigga was like not there. Him and all the other boys that like did that shit, not there, gone completely, nowhere to be found. And I was happy as fuck. I was like, yeah, you dumb nigga, because how the fuck you gonna say some shit and then not be able to stand on it? I hate a nigga that can but can't fight. That don't make no fucking sense. Shut the fuck up if you can't fight, period. Okay? And I stand on that. Shut the fuck up if you can't fight. If you can't fight, shut the fuck up. You have nothing to say if you can't fight. And so I'm sorry. So yeah, that was one of the other instances dealing with white people. And then I transferred out of that school and I went to homeschool. You would think it would be better because it's less people, but no, because it's less people, you actually know who's saying the racist shit because you can just go up to them and say it, you know what I mean, and ask them. But it's not any better. So I remember I was going to this trip in Colorado, right? We was in the fucking mountains, and it was a ranch, right? It was a ranch, and the head person that was running the trip, he was white, and mostly everybody else was white. It was like one black girl. Our principal that was on the trip was Hispanic, whatever. It was a little mix, right? And anyways, we was on this trip, and right, so we're on this trip, right? And I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Out of the whole trip, there was 4 black people, and the rest were white. And then there was like a sprinkle, okay, of like some Hispanics and some other races. But they all, you feel me? And so basically, right, chopping it up, we're all in a room. The way the camp like site worked or whatever, it was like this big ass dorm, and then it would be like little rooms and shit, right? And so there's like 4 girls to a room or whatever, and then there was like a break off room that was right next to it. So basically, long story short, we're in the room, we're all playing card games, right? There was 2 white girls in that room, me, I was the only black girl in that room, and then there was like a sprinkle of some other races, like an Asian girl, some other. And basically we're playing card games, and before I even like spoke to this girl, when I first got on this trip, some people had told me, hey, stay away from this girl because she's known for being racist and saying racial ass shit. And before we played this card game, she had said some shit about Native Americans. I don't remember what the comment was because it was hella long ago, but it was some like real racist ass shit. And I basically said to her, like, she had said some real racist ass shit towards Native Americans, and I'm black and Native American, so it's like, bitch, I'm gonna correct you every single fucking time. And I was like, hey, that's not true, you shouldn't say that, that's actually like really like fucking racist, you know what I mean? And she was like, oh well, whatever the fuck she said. And I was like, no bitch, like that's fucking racist, like, you know what I mean, watch yourself. Anyway, she shut the fuck up, right? So fast forward, we're playing the card game, and she's talking, but we're all really into this card game, like, bitch, sit down and shut the fuck up, nobody really wants to hear you. But as she goes on and on and on and on, I'm like, let me tune into what the fuck she's saying. So I'm listening to what she's saying, and she's like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as white privilege. And I'm like, wait, I'm like, hold on. So I'm still listening to her. She's like, yeah, there's no such thing as white privilege because this and this happened. And it was basically like a white on white crime, and I guess the police officers like didn't do shit about it. And I'm like, bitch, what? Bitch, that's exactly what white privilege is. Like, fuck are you talking about? Like, that's exactly what white privilege is. Like, you basically got it right then and there. It's like, oh yeah, there's no such thing as white privilege, and white privilege isn't a thing because you know, those people would have got taken to jail if white privilege was a thing. Huh? You guys are both white. Make that like, huh? And anyways, I can't deal with stupid fucking people after too long, because then it's like I lose brain cells fucking with them for too long. You know what I mean? And so, you know, she's talking about it, and I interrupt her, and I'm like, well, no, white privilege is a thing. I was like, and that was a form of white privilege. I was like, because had it been a black person or a Hispanic person that, you know, maybe had some tattoos or, you know, a certain type of look to them, they would have been taken to jail. Regardless of the fucking situation, they would have been taken to jail. And there's been plenty of instances over, you know, the past couple of years and, you know, different shit where Hispanics and blacks had just been simply suspicious, ain't done shit, just been simply suspicious, walking down the fucking street or something, and they were taken to jail. And it's kind of like, what? You know what I mean? So it was just like, girl, what are you talking about? So then, you know, me having I'm a little 2 cents in, I had to clock her tea real quick. And I was like, well, yeah, that's a form of white privilege. I was like, but here's the thing, y'all do have white privilege, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was like, if I had white privilege, I'm gonna use that shit. Like, the fuck, like, I'm gonna use that shit, and I'm gonna run with it, you know, as far as I fucking can. I'm gonna shut that up everybody ass, you feel me? I was like trying to tell, like, there's really nothing wrong with white privilege. I was like, the biggest thing that's wrong about white privilege is the fact that you guys get treated differently than other people. You guys aren't gonna be stopped for looking fucking suspicious, and, you know, or, oh, they match the description, that's why we put, and ain't really have shit on them, you feel me? And so, you know, we're talking about it a little bit, and I'm basically telling her, like, yeah, white privilege is a thing, and this is why ABCD, you know. I'm like, and another thing is, like, you know, there's some rooms that me as a light-skinned black woman will be accepted into that a darker-skinned black woman will never be accepted into, or, you know, be allowed into, you know what I mean? And there's certain things that they'll have to go through that me and you will not have to go through simply because of the color of our skin. You know, so we're talking about it with the dude. She gets upset, and she says, nigga, like, yells at me like, you know, nigga. And I'm like, bitch, what? I was like, bitch, there's no way, right? And I thought about two things. I was like, I can either whoop this bitch ass. Yes, I know y'all gonna be so surprised when y'all hear the answer of what I did do. I was like, I could either whoop this bitch ass, or I could let the bitch go and just give her a quick history lesson and clock her motherfucking teeth. So you know what I did? I went with the second option. Yes, I sure did, because that plane ticket was $1,000 home, and I just didn't want my dad to pay that. It's not that he couldn't, I just didn't want him to pay that, you know what I mean? And so, you know, when she said it, she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to say that, it just came out. Bitch, it didn't just fucking come out, you know what I mean? She was like, oh, well, my sister has a black boyfriend. It's always that stupid shit. Well, my mama's cousin is black, my mama's best friend is black. Bitch, don't nobody give a fuck. Like, please, nobody gives a fuck. I promise you, nobody gives a fuck, okay? And so, sorry y'all, right? And so, you know, I clock her tea, whatever, give her a real history lesson and shit like that, right? Quiet, silent, shut the fuck up, right? And so, you know, long story short, right, so I clocked her tea and she shut the fuck up. And then, you know, later on that day, I didn't plan on telling nobody, because it was kind of just like, even if I tell somebody, they're not gonna fucking do anything about it. And I was right about that. I was right. So what ended up happening was, there was another white girl that was in that room. Remember how I mentioned there was 2 white girls? There was another white girl in that room, and I was going back and forth with that white girl too, because she added in her little 2 cents too, and was like, oh, white privilege isn't a thing. White people always want to say that shit, and I get it, because y'all don't see it, right? And I wouldn't see it either if I was always being, you know, spoiled, or, you know, this and that, you know what I mean? I wouldn't see it either. But when other people are not getting what you're getting, they see it, because it's right in front of their face. There's nothing they can do but see it, you feel me? And so, you know, she leaves, goes into the other room. She tells all the other girls in that room. Later on that day, we go downstairs, and we go downstairs, and the Hispanic principal, right? I don't want to name any names. We're gonna call her Jay. She pulls me to the side, and you know, we basically have a little conversation. We talk about it, right? She's like, oh, okay, that's what happened. I'm gonna talk to the girl. She talks to the girl, and the girl uses her white woman weaponizing tears like they always do. And you know, she's bawling, oh, I didn't know, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. They always don't fucking know, right? They always don't fucking know. That's why they cry. And so, you know, she's crying or whatever. And you know, later on that day, the teacher comes, pulls me to the side. She's like, you know, she said she doesn't know and she's so sorry, and you know, I think you should just educate her. Mind you, this is coming from a person of color, a Hispanic woman. She's like, oh, you know, she said she doesn't know, you know, I think you should just educate her, just, you know, tell her what she did wrong, you know, and really tell her like about history and what to do. And I was basically like, no, I don't plan on doing that. Like, fuck her and her white people tears. I was like, you're Hispanic, you know exactly what white people tears have done to, you know, the people of color community, and you know, you're basically just falling into the same fucking trap that everybody else does, right? And you know, she was basically like, oh, well, you know, she just doesn't know, this would be a good opportunity to educate her. I'm like, why is it every time a person of color or a black person, specifically a black person, gets offended by some stupid shit that white people say, and we, instead of getting upset and feeling a certain type of emotion and feeling like we should beat their ass, we're supposed to be their educators? No, fuck you and your education, bitch. That's what the fucking school system's for, bitch. If you want to be fucking educated, then you need to go fucking talk to your teacher or hit a fucking history book up or some shit. You know what the fuck you said, and you know damn well calling a black person a nigga was fucking racist, dumb hoe. Anyways, it's triggering, guys. Let me calm the fuck down. So it just grinds my gears. Anyways, so right, you know, I basically was like, no, fuck you, fuck her, fuck the situation, and you know, fuck everybody else that's supporting this dumbass shit. And so I asked her straight up, right? Because I grew up around a whole bunch of different like races, predominantly black, but I have a whole bunch of Hispanic friends. And I basically was just like, you know, I'm a bitch that knows my history, and you know, whatever. So I was like, how would you feel if you, being a Hispanic woman, someone called you a bed wench? Like, how the fuck would you feel about that? So, you know, she started crying and shit like that. I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm not gonna educate that bitch. Fuck that bitch and fuck the situation. So, you know, later on they tried to have like an intervention and was like, oh, the girl's getting bullied, right? Nothing was solved, because after I said what the fuck I said at that intervention, everybody was cranked up. They were at 5, them bitches went to 10. Okay, and I'm still friends with all them bitches that was like, I'll beat that bitch ass, you put her in the room with me, right? So yeah, nothing got solved. Violence is the answer sometimes. You know, sometimes bitches need to get their ass whooped, or they need to get sued, or you know, they need to get their ass whooped. You know, because being nice is not always the answer all the fucking time. And we as black people are not these other races educators. We're not. You know what I mean? Like, we're not your educators. Pick up a fucking book. Go watch a fucking video. You know what I mean? History documentaries. Oh my god, I was gonna say documentaries. You know what I mean? Like, that's just really what it is nowadays. And you know, so yeah, y'all, there's other instances that I could talk about of just, you know, white people really feeling like they're entitled, and other people really just making them feel like they're entitled and can, you know, do whatever the fuck, say whatever the fuck, and you know, just, you know, what they usually do. And I feel like us as people of color, we really do, what's the word I want to use, we really do put up with that, and we really do like encourage that in a sense, because we don't stick up enough for ourselves. You know what I mean? And we're real quick to be like, oh, she's crying, it's okay, let me fucking kiss her owie and put a fucking band-aid on it. See, you got me fucking stuttering and shit. Let me put a fucking band-aid on it. No, bitch, I don't want to kiss your owies no more. I don't want to put a fucking band-aid on it. I don't want to help you out. You know what I mean? I don't want to do none of that shit. I want you to educate yourself, you know, because that's not my job. You know, just like I can be educated, you can be educated too. And I feel like if anybody should be motherfucking educated, it should be white people, since they got all this fucking money and they the ones that want to be racist. Like, how you gonna be racist and not know the full fucking story? that just don't make sense to me. And of course there'll be some people like, oh well, you know, white people really don't know, and that's exactly what I mean by feeding into that shit and really like encouraging them, and you know, just really like, there's a fucking word, I can't think about that shit right now, but you know, so I just, yeah, there's, you know, there's hella shit. And even like with my darker skinned friends, my darker counterparts, right, my girls, right, I love my dark skins, they've been through shit that was kind of just like, whoa, like why the fuck would you say or, you know, do some shit like that? Like, let me tell you, my dark skinned friend, right, we call her Salty, I'm not gonna use her real name, we call her Salty. She was walking to my house, to the apartments, right, beautiful chocolate girl, you know, she got some piercings, you know, and everything, and you know, she's walking to my house, and this white lady stops her car with her kids in the car, rolls down the window, points at my friend and says, see, you don't want to ever be like that little black girl. It's shit like that. It's shit like that. Like, you can't make this shit up. And I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other black people that have stories like this of just white people just feeling so fucking entitled and privileged, you know what I mean, and just feeling like, you know, oh yeah, I can do and I can say that and I can da-da-da. And then when they get checked, then they're wondering like, oh my god, like what's going on, like I can't say that. No, you can't say that, bitch. And why is it always the fact of like, when people, hold on, why is it always the fact of like sorry, I had to stop the phone. Why is it always the fact of like people feeling like, oh, people should be educated on this topic but they shouldn't be educated on that topic? Like, I don't understand why people feel like, or these excuses, right? They'll be like, oh, my friend didn't know that she wasn't supposed to say that because she's autistic and she has ADHD, and you know, she's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little da 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 da. First of all, let's be fucking honest. Your bitch is, your friend is self-diagnosed, okay? She don't got a paper for that shit. She didn't even talk to a doctor about that shit. Someone told her that they had it, and she was like, oh, that kind of sounds like me, so I must have it too. And then y'all ran with that shit. Let's be fucking honest. But that doesn't take away any less from the racist shit that came out their mouth. You feel me? I can go on about this all fucking day for hours and hours and hours about the stupid shit that white people say and they do. Just like voted for Trump. Let's be fucking honest. A lot of you white people voted for Trump because y'all really felt like Trump was gonna deport every person of color, right? And now you bitches mad, especially you white women, because some of the shit he took away was personally helping you bitches. And now y'all like, oh my god, we need black women, we need these women to help support. No, fuck you and your support, straight up. Because where was our support when this shit was happening, when that was happening? Now that nobody wants to support you and nobody wants to help you, it's an all woman problem. No, bitch, it's a you problem. It's a you woman problem, right? You bitches wanted to vote for him, don't cry now. That's how it works. You feel me? So it's just kind of like, y'all, I could go on about this days and, you know, hours and hours about stupid shit white people say and they do and everything, but I am gonna have another podcast episode Friday, okay, Friday, and it'll probably be posted Saturday, so y'all definitely stay tuned for that. I hope y'all liked, oh my god, I hope y'all liked I hope y'all liked my podcast, my show. You know, it's new, I'm new at this, so if I fuck up or I mess up or whatever the fuck, or you know, there's something you guys want me to go more in depth about, because I'm going to talk about the LGBTQ, I'm going to talk about, you know, blacks and Hispanics and, you know, the beef that we got going on. I plan on talking about, you know, black people and their hair. I plan on talking about, you know, shit, what were the other topics? There were so many topics. I plan on talking about, you know, the kids that feel like they're transgender and they're gay at a young ass age. I plan on talking about the education system. I plan on talking about racism and just different races, cultures, and religions. You know what I mean? I plan on talking about, you know, light skins and dark skins and this intercultural colorist hate that, you know, is between us. I plan on talking about it all. So the next podcast episode that I'm gonna have is honestly, it's a break off of this, but it's about I'll bring my dark-skinned friend on, you know, I'll be bringing my darker skinned friend onto the podcast, and you know, we're just gonna talk about like our different the different things that we've both went through growing up as black, you know, and me being light skinned, her being dark skinned, you feel me? Because, you know, that I feel like that'll just be a good topic, and she would probably be the best person to have that conversation with, because she's just as opinionated as me. So you guys will get the hard, you know, the hard truth, you know what I mean, whether y'all like it or not. But definitely stay tuned for that, because I have a lot more stories for y'all. I can go in depth of anything that I said on this show too. So yeah, you guys, so stay tuned. Oh yeah, and again, if any of y'all don't like what I said, mind your fucking business, get the fuck off my page. But also, if you like what I said and you want to hear more and just like be on this journey with me, and you know, making this podcast, and you know, really getting better at it, because this is my first episode, y'all, so it might be a little bad, but you know, just stay tuned. Mwah.